Hello and welcome to the CDO magazine interview series. I'm Derek Strauss with Gavroshe, and today, once again, I have the pleasure of talking with Randy Bean. Hey, Randy, there you go. We've just had a great discussion about your book. And for those of you who didn't pick up segment one of the interview, please go back and find it. There's some interesting perspectives that Randy shares from his book. For our audience. So, Randy, I know that coming up real soon now, there is a session that you're going to be speaking at. And I wondered if you could maybe give our viewers and our listeners some background as to what that's all about.
Yeah, absolutely. And nice to see you again, Derek. Yes, next month, almost a month from today, I head off to Lima, Peru, to be the keynote speaker for CDO Latin America. It's a wonderful event. It's in about its sixth year. I've written about the event for CDO magazine in the past few years, so I was honored to be invited to be the keynote speaker. And I'm speaking on the topic of what comes next for the CDO, CDAO role in an AI future. And as we discussed in the previous episode, it's an area that I've had a lot of experience because the first chief data officer for a major bank after the financial services crisis mandated that role was hired out of my firm. So I've been advising organizations on shaping and how they can be successful with the CDO role since its inception.
Excellent, excellent. And that event, is that a one-day event?
It's a 2-day event, I believe, and it brings together chief data officers and now chief AI officers from all across Latin America, from Argentina to Brazil to Central America, Mexico, Peru, Chile. So it's an outstanding event, and have got to know the people. Ivan Herrero Bartolome, who's the chair of the event. He's been very active in the MIT CDO IQ symposium for several years now.
Yeah, that sounds like a great event to be a part of, and I'm sure that stuff will be written on that as well. So if people can't attend, keep your eyes peeled, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of written material, perhaps even some video material coming out of that. Randy, just kind of stepping back on this whole role of the chief data officer. How have you seen the role evolve over the last 15 years, and where do you think it's going in the upcoming time?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because there's so many things that I can't really talk about, but this is a subject that I could talk about for days and days and days. And, let's try to put things in perspective. So, as you pointed out in our previous episode, the role is nascent. So sometimes people forget how new it is. And a generation ago, the CIO was a new role. And at that time, people joked that CIO stood for career is over. So, people should take heart that in spite of all of the change and turmoil around the CDO role, we're basically headed in the right direction over time. But let me share some data with you. In 2012, just within 5 years of the financial crisis, only 12% of organizations in a survey that I've been conducting since that time had named or had appointed a chief data officer. And it wasn't until 2017 that more than half of Fortune 1000 organizations said that they had appointed a chief data officer. And this year, it was 83.2%. So clearly, it's become a role that's become well established in terms of organizations. But in spite of that, we ask questions about, is the role successful and established within the organizations? And in 2020, it was as low as 27.9%. In 2023, it was up to 35%. Finally, in 2024 was the first time that it exceeded the 50% mark. So it was 51%. But the point there is organizations continue to struggle with establishing the role within their organization. And we asked whether it's well understood within our organization, and 48.6% said yes. So half of organizations are still struggling with making the role well understood. Just a couple of quick points. When the role was first established, it was largely a defensive role in the light of the financial services crisis. So it was a lot of risk and regulatory activities. And as you know from your experience, it's evolved into a more offensive role. In other words, how can you build the business? How can you grow the business? How can you better serve your customers over time? And in conjunction with that, the analytics component was brought in. So the role evolved from being chief data officer to chief data analytics officer within many organizations. And now within the past year, 2 years now, we've had the sudden arrival of Gen AI and AI. And now organizations are facing a couple different questions. One is, should they fit the AI under the chief data officer role? Or should they establish a separate chief AI officer role? One of the questions we asked this past year, we said, is analytics part of the CDO function? 70% said yes. We said, is generative AI part of the CDO function? 61% said yes. We said, should it be part of the CDO function? 79% said yes. But you have to keep in mind, a lot of the people that were responding were chief data officers and other data leaders, so it expresses kind of their wishes. But have seen a number of organizations hire chief AI officers. I just published an article yesterday in Forbes about Capital One, and Capital One has both a chief data officer and now somebody leading their AI efforts, and they work hand in hand. So we're very much in an evolutionary phase, and how the chief data officer role continues and the shape of it over the next 5 to 10 years is something that's a work in progress.
Mm. Yeah, thanks for that. It is interesting, all the different titles. I know when we started this off, it was all CDO, everything was chief data officer, and then you started getting almost alphabet soup, it was like CDAO, CDA, and now AI thrown into the mix. And like you, I've bumped into a bunch of people that if you ask them for the official title, their title is data and AI. So it does seem like those two worlds are, they certainly collided with each other. Whether in fact they're actually merging or not is to be seen. But certainly it's exciting times. It seems like, if you look back over the last 30 plus years, as you've mentioned, that the role is something that people are gaining more. There's more recognition that there's absolutely a need for someone, for some kind of czar somewhere in the organization to stand up and lead the charge around this. And it's encouraging to hear that at least we've broken through the 51% this year. Yes, after 30 years. So I think it gives certainly those of us who followed this for so long and have been, entrenched in it, a lot of hope that eventually this role is here to stay and is becoming more and more mature. And we can do great things for the organizations that we're in with this greater understanding of what the role is all about. Of course, one of the key things that you've often brought out is the fact that organizations need to understand the role and need to have the right kind of expectations on that role, because if they have wildly, wrong expectations, then the person that's in that role is not going to do terribly well, and people are going to say, "Oh, well, that didn't work. What are we going to do next?" So, any comments or thoughts on that? How do we help people to understand the role and the remit and the scope of the role?
Well, being a relatively new role, when you look at things from the long-term perspective, there's natural challenges. So there's no common blueprint. For a number of years, chief data officers were reporting all over the organizations, everywhere from reporting to CIOs to some organizations. I knew they reported to the chief marketing officer. So each organization had their different concept of what the chief data officer role meant. I think that now and going forward, it's going to be more important than ever, because as AI gains in prominence and becomes more prevalent, we all know that great AI is entirely dependent upon the quality of the data. So now more than ever, data is going to make a critical difference. In terms of the evolution, I just may tell you one little anecdotal story, which hopefully you'll appreciate. And that was in this past December, I participated in a 2-day event at Northeastern University, their Institute for Experiential AI. And the first day was billed as the 10th Chief Data Officer Gathering Symposium. And the second day was billed as the first ever Chief AI Officer Symposium. So on day one, I moderated a keynote panel with 4 Chief Data Officers from Fortune 1000 companies. And on the second day, I said to the conference organizers in the opening remarks, when they said this was the first Chief AI Officer event, I said, I thought the first Chief AI Officer event was in 1962. And they looked at me like, like they'd misheard me or what was I talking about? But, the term AI was coined back in the 1950s. So this is not new stuff in and of itself. What's new is the computing power and the ability and the volume of data and the ability now to bring this to the masses and to integrate it into key business processes. So that's why it's important to have that long-term perspective, because I had a business colleague, he got his PhD in AI close to 30 years ago. And about a year ago, I said to him, or maybe it was about 3 years ago, I said to him, Bill, I said, there's a project and a particular client wants to do this stuff with AI. And he said, AI is never going to happen. He had just gone through so many cycles that had just completely given it up. And then lo and behold, it did break through.
Mm. I mean, we're definitely in a major breakthrough season right now, and it's great to see it. It's very exciting, and I'm sure that the Peru event that you mentioned is going to be a great success. So all success for you guys going down there and everything that's involved with that, and happy travels. And great to see you again, Randy. Thanks for sharing all of those thoughts with us. Thanks for joining me again today. And to our audience, please visit cdomagazine.tech for additional interviews. And from Randy and myself, for now, cheerio.
Great to see you. Thank you.